All right, welcome to another live stream, by the way. So welcome to another live. So I decided to come on live this morning. It's kind of morning for me right here. It's 10 a.m. Well, 9:51. I had to work through some tech problems, I guess. But I think it's all fixed right now. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. But before I talk too far, I need to make sure that I am coming through with good audio and visuals. So please let me know if you're live right now, if you're joining the live stream. Just drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know that the audio is good. Let me know that the visuals are good and you can hear me well. I try to get that feedback before I get into the things I want to talk about. Again, I don't do this often, so I'm always having to make sure that my checklist and things that I need to complete are done correctly. Okay, looks like I'm live. Let me go back. I need to make sure. Just bear with me so I can see my chat as well. Hey, Stephen McBaker, thanks for joining. I know I didn't schedule this. It's good to see you. It's good to see that you're here. Thanks for joining. How are you doing? Hope my audio is good. Let me know if my audio is good. I would appreciate that. Just this a little bit. Good. I'm always trying to make sure that before I get into, if I talk too much, right? I want to make sure that everything is working just right. I do my lives when I can, and that means that I don't do it every time. And that means that there's always a room to make mistakes, especially when you don't get as much practice. But hope you're doing well wherever you are. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're hearing me. Thanks. I believe you can hear me, Mark. Good to have you. Let me know what's going on. If you have questions, that's really the purpose of this live. I really want to just dive into all the questions. Sometimes I run out of things to say. I'll be honest with you. All right, where there's so much I can say about interviews. There's so much you can say about cadet programs. There's so much I can say about becoming a pilot. At some point, you start to run out of ideas, and when that happens, one of the ways I try to stay up ideas and video topics to talk about is through engaging with the community, engaging with those who follow and watch the channel on a regular basis. By doing that, I'm able to answer your questions. I'm able to serve the audience with what they want to see and what they want to watch. As you know, this is something that I do out of let me actually stop recording this one. Out of just the love for engaging with aviation aspiring pilots in particular, and of course maybe current pilots, people who are looking to transition to the next level, or get the next big job that they're after. So let me know what you're going through. Let me know what struggles you're experiencing. Share your questions, and I would gladly answer them. In the meantime, though, while I'm doing all of that, I also want to catch up on some news. So one of the things I also do on a regular basis is try to see what are the current news and information that is out there, and they can definitely be a talking point as well while I do this live. Hello, Das, good to have you. Thanks for joining. Where are you from? If you don't mind, just country is good. I just want to get an idea of where you're from. That would be great. I haven't made any videos this week. This is my first live stream, well, for the month of, actually we're in July now, so I guess I didn't do any live stream last month, so I try to do this at least once a month. Ideally I want to do it once a week, but with work, with life, with family stuff going on, it gets very busy, and you end up prioritizing certain things. Okay, Shama, hey Steven, how are you? Can you recommend me any flight school in Europe that provides ESA ATPL under 55,000 euros? Hey, that's really a question that I cannot answer, unfortunately, Shama. I would love to help you. I would love to guide you, but to to recommend a flight school to you that is under 55,000 euros, I honestly don't know of any. I'm not saying that it do not exist. I'm not saying that there won't be any out there. I'm pretty sure there might be some schools out there that are under 55,000 euros. And also, to be clear, when you say 55,000 euros, are you saying, okay, well, I guess up until ATPL? Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest about that. So, but one thing I would say is if you go online, try to just look at schools, get some, you have to do that work, if that makes sense, because the school that I would recommend are the ones that I know of. I don't, by the way, I'm in the US. I live in the US. My camera is good here. All right, I live in the US, and that means that I'm quite vast on the knowledge about things in the US, North America, for most part. But when it comes to Europe, I am not too familiar with the flight schools out there. I know about the airlines, I know about the interviewing steps that you can take and how to achieve success with those. But I'm not too vast on the knowledge of flight schools out there. I'm a current CFI. And of course, my certified flight instructor is how I can teach through that rating and the license is how I can teach people in the US how to fly. Although I do not do that actively because I have a full-time job as well. But I know about the training industry very well in the US, and that's what I can really talk about to an extent. I'll be giving my Cambridge as A-level on my October, and I probably will get results in January. So yeah, looking for good schools, programs, etc. Yeah, I'm the one who asked you about Indian Cadet. Oh yeah, I remember. I think I gave you some. I did reply to your comment on how to. I remember you were asking if I could talk more about Indian Cadet programs, and honestly, the reason I think I responded to your comment. The reason why I don't talk about those programs is because most of them require that you fund them. And what I've realized is most people who are trying to get into aviation are unable to get into aviation because they don't have the money. So talking about a cadet program doesn't serve the majority of the people. Talking about cadet programs that are funded or that requires you to fund it or requires you to get a loan or whatever doesn't serve majority of the audience, and that's why I don't talk about them. There are so many cadet programs I could be talking about. I mean, I know about even the ones in the US. I don't really talk about them as well because they require you to either sponsor yourself through getting loans or raising the funds, and that's why I don't talk about them. Right? So you have to understand that I can't. I try to put my energy into programs that serves majority of the audience, if that makes sense. And it's hard to just talk about one particular program for one person. The other thing also is of course, if you have a specific question about the program, you can always reach out to me. I will definitely answer you as well. I've contacted Epic Flight Academy as they have both training and degree program. I'm looking for an Indian Aviation Academy as well, who provide cadet program in Indigo and train. Yeah, so Epic Flight Academy is one I definitely I'm very familiar with. We actually, because Epic Flight Academy is in New Smyrna Beach, not New Smyrna, actually it's in New Smyrna actually in Florida, and I'm very familiar with their program as well. So yes, I can share some information with you if you need help. Because everything is online, just so you know, but I also have a first-hand experience with the school in terms of we trained. So my school where I trained, this was back in 2010, it was literally a few miles away from Epic. Mine was in Daytona Beach, and we would often fly into New Smyrna Beach during training, which actually, let me see if I can pull it up right here. Sky Vector. And through that, you get your training, you do your landings and takeoffs at the airport. Let me share my screen real quickly here. Oh, wrong one. Let me show you what I mean right here. Daytona Beach is right there. All right. So you see Daytona Beach is right here. So this is where I actually trained. Let me zoom in a little bit more. And you see here, New Smyrna Beach. All right, that airport, that's the name right there. That is where Epic Flight Academy is. Now they have satellite campuses in other places. By the way, I'm not showing myself. They have satellite campuses in other places. Okay. So if you go from, let me do KDAB to KEVB. All right. See that pink line? That pink line is literally 9 nautical miles from let me move myself. Oh, I can't move that out of the way. I want to move this out of the way. Okay. Right there. So New Smyrna Airport is here. Their primary base, or primary headquarters, I guess you call it, for that flight school, Epic Flight Academy, is right here. Okay. They have a satellite base in different places. They have one in Texas. They have the primary one in Daytona, in New Smyrna Beach. So we would often take off from here, head south, and it's a short flight. And sometimes you practice instrument approaches into this airport. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it. All right, practice instrument approaches into the airport. So yeah, I'm very familiar with their training program, training curriculum, all of that stuff. All right, let's see. I'll be giving my, okay, I think I already answered that. I'm talking about South Africa. I'm not very familiar with the programs in South Africa, but one thing I will say is that people go there to do their training. I've heard just like the US as well. There's always the good feedback you get, and sometimes you get some bad feedback, about bad reviews about a flight school. So just do your research well. Again, if you have questions, you can always send me a message on Instagram. I would try to respond. I try to respond as often as I can. But that's one way to do it. And I think you're already doing that part. Again, the cadet programs for India, I don't talk about them because, hey, you have to pay. You have to have the money. And majority of the people, who watch my channel don't have the ability to do so. Can you please send this link to this website? This website is skyvector.com. So you can look up any airport. Let me see if I can put it in the chat. That's it right there, skyvector.com. You can put up any airport, I think in the US for most part, actually around the world as well, but it doesn't have all the, I don't think it has all the instrument approaches for different parts of the world in there. This is in Africa. I don't know, I haven't really looked at other parts of the world, but I know in the US you can pull up a lot of information about any airport in the US. Instrument approaches, services they provide, things like that. Hi, the Singapore Airlines cadet is open, but I have a question. Should I pick a degree before entering or just direct entry? I have a music career right now. Hayden, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. One thing is, yes, I don't think the program requires that you have a degree. But of course, if you can get a degree, it helps you in general. It helps you, in terms of your CV. It helps who you are as a person. You become a better person, all that stuff, right? So I think that is clear. But one thing I would say is that, do you want to, I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly. Do you want to go start a degree program and then apply? Is that what you're asking? Or do you want to just apply directly to the program? Because you can do both of them, right? There's nothing stopping you from applying right now and trying, but of course you have to make sure you're prepared, because the program is not, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I wouldn't say it's extremely difficult as well. Okay, you have to make sure that you are, and again, with the resources I have on my channel and the things I talk about, they will definitely help you. Okay, because I've gotten feedback from a lot of people on how it's helped them progress, maybe to the stages of interview and stuff. So what I'll say is, honestly, it's really up to you. Getting the degree is optional. All right, it's always optional. You don't have to get a degree. You don't have to wait until you get a degree, but it helps to get a degree just because it makes you a better person. Now talking about your music career, one thing I'll say is that a lot of times, actually, let me switch back to this one. One thing I'll say is that you have to be able to share what you've been doing, right, in the past few years that you've been maybe working, right, and you have to share what has inspired you to switch from music to aviation. That's something that you have to keep in mind. So you have to have an excellent answer for that, and because that's how they test your motivation, right? Why is this person who is into music all of a sudden switching to aviation? Is this really something that they are passionate about, or is this something that they are just trying to try out for a little bit and see how it goes? Especially for cadet programs like Singapore Airlines cadet program and the likes, they want to make sure that they're giving the spot to somebody who is highly motivated for the job. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Please tell me about EPIC. I'm looking for a degree plus training program. EPIC has many university programs, which helps me get a F1 rather than M1. Plus, I've heard a lot about EPIC, but I am worried about license conversion for DGCA India, and I'm more worried about international intern programs in the US. So here's the thing, right? You have great questions. You've definitely done your research. That's one thing I would say is that a lot of these flight schools in the US, which I know you're familiar with, do train people from India, which means that there's already a path to you to how you can convert and get your conversion done. And by the way, I have friends from India who have trained here, went back to India, did their conversion, and some of them are in India working, some of them are in UAE or in Middle East, working in those regions. So the point here is there's definitely a way to achieve what you're trying to do. Don't get overwhelmed by the fact that you have to do your conversion, because there's a program that they use to do this conversion program. I don't know about the program itself, but what I'm trying to say is that I hear them talk about, just like the guys that come from Europe as well, before they do their exams, ATPL exams, they have to do some of these studies that they go through. Are they studying the questions, practicing the questions? So one thing I'll say is, one thing I know about EPIC is that it's a good school. I have honestly not heard much negative stuff about the school. Okay, it's a little expensive, just like any other established flight school, because it's quite established, right? Let me see if I can find something on them here. EPIC Flight Academy. That's not where I wanted that one. Let me do this. I know that I'm trying to look at the cost itself now. I've not looked at the cost in a while, but I want to see if I can pull up. Spot. Okay, airline pilot program, international students, zero experience to airline pilots. It's about 69,000. Starting instrument course 41,000. Starting with commercial course. Okay, so if you're starting from zero, this is what you're looking at, somewhere there as an international student. Now, let me see if they have a cost breakdown here. Yeah, let me zoom in so that you can see that as well. With the cost breakdown, something to always keep in mind, right? I don't believe they have private pilot course is 28,000, instrument course 17, commercial 16, commercial multi-engine 7, TSA, fingerprint, FAA exam, scheduling, course books, blah 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 blah, FAA check, right? God damn, 4,000. All right. So total comes out to be 76 with an optional time building in a Cessna 149 per hour. CRM course 5,000. So all of this, right? And this is starting with zero experience. Okay, so you will fall into this ballpark number. Now on their website, I know it said 69,000, but this is currently showing it as 76,000. Now, one thing I'll say, all of this is also one thing to keep in mind as you do your research. All right, every flight school will tell you, hey, let me use this one. Every flight school will tell you, hey, you have 76,000 to complete this course, but always plan for a bit extra, maybe 10% extra. Okay, so it's about 7,600 in this particular number. All right, so 10% is about 76,000, 7,600, so around 10,000, somewhere there. And the reason why you want to do that is because it gives you the ability to not get stressed. Now, please understand, you don't have to have all this money to get started. I think most of you understand that. Sometimes you might start with 20 and then slowly add money as you progress. So don't say that you have to wait until you have 76,000 saved up. But one thing is, know that you are likely to exceed that amount. Why? Because there are times you go on flights where you may need to repeat some things, not because you're not doing well, but just because, hey, we had bad weather for the past week and now you've not flown for like a week, and now you show up to this flight and you're not performing to the best of your abilities. So they tell you, okay, you know what, why don't you let's repeat this flight, or let's repeat this lesson. And that would happen. And guess what, when you do that, you're paying an extra you're paying extra for the flight, you're paying extra for the fuel, paying extra for the instruction, all of that, right? So always keep that in mind. But to make sure I answer your question, the program itself, if you go back to, let me go back to the web page here and I pull up this here. What I want to pull up is the college programs, okay? Aviation college programs. So they have, let's see. This is with Daytona State College. Degree offered AS in Operations Management Technology. Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. Metropolitan State University, okay, they would offer degree, Bachelor's of Science. Okay, so something like this, right? That makes sense, all right? I think I would prefer this over AS in Operations Management. And of course, unless that's what you want to do, right? Now, associates, this is an associate degree, by the way. It's not a bachelor's degree, okay? I believe it's an associate degree, that's why it's AS, okay? But this is a Bachelor's of Science. We have Polk State College. They offer an associate's degree as well. Bachelor's of Science, professional pilot, professional flight or aviation management. And this is Purdue, okay? Let me see. This is Seminole State College, associate, and AA, BS, and BS. Actually, it's been a while that I looked up this school. They've done a lot of things with different colleges, and they offer a lot of programs now. But when I was there, they didn't have as much programs. Virtual school, proper license. I'm trying to find their curriculum. Meet the requirements, complete ground school, complete flight training, pass check ride, prepare course overview. So 65 hours here, simulator 30 hours, flight in a Cessna 40 hours. Oh yeah, so for example, this is assuming that you progress from each stage on time without repeating anything. Okay, so 40 hours, that's the total time, dual time with an instructor, okay, you need. And of course, you need 5 hours of solo. All right, let me see. Yeah. So this is the quote you see, the numbers you're seeing here is based on minimum time. That means you're not repeating flights, you're not doing things over, you're pretty much progressing through each lesson, and that's not reality. Okay, that's not reality at all. So always keep that in mind when you're looking at those numbers, okay, because that's how they come up with the cost. That's how they come up with the cost of training. Let me adjust this so that this makes sense as well, and you can see me. Do that. Move it there. All right. What I really want to see is, I don't think they have their course curriculum on here. The curriculum would help to, course sequence is what they have here: private pilot instrument, single engine, multi-engine, time build as needed, and hire the CPO. Time building. Schedule visa. Okay, so here's the deal. One thing that you brought up, Das, just to answer your question as well. You asked something about M1, F1, and if you do a degree program, like you already know, you get the F1. If you choose just the flight training itself, you get an M1. And you know that the M1 has a bit more restrictions than the F1. Okay, so keep that in mind. Like you're doing, I would advise that you try to get an F1 if possible. That would go a long way. All right, I'm looking at the next question. I took A levels and I'm waiting my results to present some content. Got good results, I think. Used. Yep, 70K for Epic. You're right. Yeah, Aiden, that's what I would say. All right, I would say study, okay, and apply. Remember, you can always try again if something doesn't go your way. All right, but one thing is waiting to get your degree and then waiting to, that's going to take some time. And the reality is that nothing is guaranteed, right? The program may not be there when you finally have your degree. So I would say take the opportunity, prepare as best as you can, take the opportunity, apply, and if it goes your way, great. If it doesn't go your way, you still have your degree as an option to complete. You can always get your degree done anytime. It's good to get it done as soon as you can, right? But in the face of having an opportunity for a cadet program, then I would say that you take the opportunity for the cadet program and then get your degree afterwards. Or maybe, afterwards, maybe after you've completed your training, you start working as a pilot, you can get your degree done at that time. Let's see. Absolutely, that's a good contribution there. If you have maths, physics, those things will help. Not required, but it would help. I took A levels and I'm waiting my results. I participated in some comps. Got some good results. That was good. How do I expand my knowledge of aviation preparation for an interview for one of the cadet programs? Hey, Jake. One thing I would say is that aviation knowledge is something that it's hard to say that you within a few days. I don't know when your interview is. All right. If you have time, you have so many YouTube channels. You have so many books you can read. But I think what you're looking for is, when you're preparing for an interview, all right, and you know that your interview is, let's say, a couple of weeks out, at that point, the best thing I would advise is that you spend time practicing for various types of questions. Because when you start to, it's okay to read of a broad, have a broad understanding of the aviation industry. It's okay to do that, to catch up on current trends and news and events and things like that. But in preparation for an interview, if you focus on just that aspect only, I feel like you won't have a very solid answer to the type of questions you're likely to get asked. All right. So my advice is, practice more on various types of questions, so that way you actually have specific things you have that you can share and that you've experienced. right over spending time just reading about the aviation, right? There's so many aspects of aviation that you can't cover it all. But for the airline you're preparing for, of course, spend time reading about the airline, what's going on, the current news. And that's how I would say that, if you go to their maybe social media pages, you can check them out to see what is current or what is developing. On their website, you can always see a lot about current events as well. Maybe they're flying new routes or new destinations. They have acquired new airplanes, expansion, growth, all of those things, right? Those are things that can help you when you go into the interview. But if you're just reading about aviation world itself, I feel like it might not be as efficient use of your time. Might not be the efficient way of using your time. Okay, let me just send a text real quick. I hope that makes sense. All right. Let's see. Next one is how do I expand my knowledge? All right. See, I've contacted them and they have helped me with a lot of my questions. Now I'm choosing for product or this, and one of the biggest problem I have is choosing whether going for a degree. Right. So here's the thing of flight training. I'm trying to see what I've decided for now. I will see my other options. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, with the cadre programs in India, one thing I've heard is it's highly competitive. It's always a lot of people applying for them, and there are no chances of you getting in. Well, your chance of getting in is quite slim. Is that true? I don't know, right? But one thing I'll say is you have a lot of options considering you are planning to fund your training, as I can see, right? So the options are kind of just, they're there for you, and all you have to do is take your time to choose the best out of all the three options that you've listed anyway. Yeah, so because they only provide the training there, the flight training, they will only give you an M1 visa. Now, have you looked at other schools that may offer F1? If that could be something you could consider. That's all right. That's something you could consider. Let me see. Now, doing an online program isn't what I'm familiar with, so can you tell me? Online programs, honestly, nowadays, that's not a big deal. It's something that you can always do. You have the ability to complete your training and at the same time get your degree done. So if it's not something you're comfortable with, it's okay, but I would say that it's definitely a great option because you can hopefully get an F1 while you're doing your flight training. And I think the ultimate goal is to become a pilot, right? And getting your degree is just something to help make you a better person, improve your CV and all of that. So what I would say is, focus more on the goal. The being online or doing your degree online isn't something that should be a problem. Let me put it that way. Okay. Let's say I flew the 737 for a UK-based airline, and this is from Ready. Let's say I flew the 737 for a UK-based airline with the EASA UK license. Is it worth, and with logistics possible, to get a good paying job with FedEx, UPS on 76-300? So in order to get any with a major airline in the US, all right, you need experience, 121 experience. 121 is just the regulation under which the airline operates in the US. I'm talking about major airlines, including the cargo airlines as well. So what I would say is that, yes, having flown 737 helps in terms of your aviation experience. However, they also prefer that you've flown in the US, have some experience in the US. Now, it would be subjective on how many hours you have, how current you are, and how many 121 hours you might have acquired if you had the ability to do so anyway. If you could fly in the US, one of the things that a lot of people would do is, let's assume that you're coming from a different country with a lot of experience and type rating, you know, flying jets and all that. That's definitely good. But you also want to show that you've flown in the US. So you might end up going to a US airline, maybe a regional airline where they would fly for 500 hours or so, and then they can apply to a major airline. With all of those experiences, it definitely puts the application a little bit higher in terms of getting viewed and getting called for an interview. But without any US experience or 121 time, it can be a lot more difficult to just go straight from anywhere in the world, coming straight to a major airline. It's almost impossible. I've not really met anyone who came directly through this type of route that you're sharing, going through that path anyway. Hey, do you offer one-on-one coaching? I need to pick your brain for 1 hour. I'm about to attend a one-on-one flight. I do offer one-on-ones. If you check my, I don't think it's in the description of this video, by the way, but if you check my videos, you always see a Stan link. A Stan link offers, with that you can see, actually, why am I talking? Let me just share it with you. I'll share it in the chat, all right? Where you can see one-on-one sessions I offer. If you are interested, of course, you can check it out. But let me see if I can share the link. I'm not sure if it's in the description of this video, but if you check the description of the video, you should find it there. All right. Let's say home. Book a one-on-one session. You can check this link out if you're interested in that. Next thing, let me see. That really depends on our, okay. Going for my flight gliding lesson on Saturday. Any advice? Well, just show up prepared. I mean, it's a gliding lesson. It's definitely interesting. I don't know if you've been in an airplane, like in a light airplane before, but it's definitely worth getting some gliding lessons. And I really don't have much to say. By the way, I've never flown a glider, right? I've never flown a glider before, but I know people who have done that, and it's always exciting to fly without an engine. Just never been something that I've picked interest in, just like helicopters as well. I don't like helicopters for some reason. I like airplanes, not helicopters. I'll be graduating from high school by March 2026. I'm an Indian student looking forward to joining Speedbird or Singapore cadet program. Can you guide me? Right. So it's stuff, or TGI stuff. One thing I'll say is that for the Speedbird program, you have to be able to work in the UK. If you're not qualified to work in the UK, then you cannot do the training, or you cannot go through the program. So something to keep in mind. A Singapore cadet program, from what I've heard with Singapore cadet program, you have to be a Singaporean, you have to have the I've forgotten some of the requirements now, but you have to have the ability to work and live there, and that is something that you need to consider. So do your research, make sure you are actually targeting the right programs for you. If you know, a lot of people are interested in these programs, but they don't have the requirements, or they don't meet the requirements. So my advice to you is go look at those requirements. I try to talk about them in my videos where I share the requirements for the program, so that you don't waste time, you know, preparing for a program that you don't qualify for. Plus, you need additional type rating for those particular aircraft, which may cost you more. And by the way, ready, just to say this, right? You don't need your type. You don't need the type rating. The type rating doesn't really give you much. It shows that you've flown complex airplanes. Okay, if you're still here, it shows that you've flown complex airplanes, but it's not something that they actively look for. I take it back. They would look at the type rating airplanes you've flown, but because you have 737 type rating doesn't mean that it's going to give you so much leg up, if that makes sense, or upper hand. It helps, but at the end of the day, they have to look at your whole experience overall, your training, your airline or professional flying experience, and of course, they can then look at, okay, what type of airplanes have you flown and stuff like that, all right? Sorry, I just need to reply someone here. 11:30. All right. The company still hire A300 pilots. So the company doesn't care about companies. What they care about is your recency, right? Whether you have a 737 or a 787. Now, don't get me wrong. Some airlines in other parts of the world do look at the type rating to hire you. So if you have a 787, for example, they might say, "Oh, well, they have a 787. This guy might be a good fit," something like that. But with A300, no, because not a lot of airlines have A300. So they generally would not look at the airplane type rating, but they look at the weight, the gross weight of the airplane. So A300 is considered an heavy airplane, right? And if you've flown an heavy airplane, it kind of translates to, or at least the experience helps fly other heavy airplanes, if that makes sense, right? Because you've flown heavy. Yeah, this guy might be able to fly 747 as well, because you've been in an heavy, and especially if you're like a captain or somebody who have a lot of experience anyway. But they don't hire you because you have an A300. I don't think so anyway. It could help, but it's not necessarily a requirement that you have to have an A300 in the US anyway. Okay, I know some airlines in other parts of the world will be specific about what they want you to have. They may say you need to have a Gulfstream G750 because that, or G550, because that's what they would train you on. Okay, but with airlines generally, they will train you on what they want you to fly. So having experience on a heavy can help. Having an experience on a complex airplane, on a jet, can help. But sometimes it's not a requirement, if that makes sense. Do you have any advice for someone that is going into the final stage of Speedbird? Have you heard any feedback from people that went last week? The feedback is always mixed, right? Majority of people, all right, I've always said it's hard, difficult. But one thing I've seen, all right, for the 3 years that I've been covering this program, is that the final stage is always difficult, and that is intentional. Why? Because that's where they have to make the tough decision on who progresses, who gets chosen, and with that comes the difficulties that is set before you. And one of the key things that I always advise people is, hey, you can practice as many questions as you can, give yourself the best chance of succeeding. But at the end of the day, when you show up on that day, the way you answer your questions is really how you're judged, right? And how you apply the competencies. So if you read about the competencies really well, all right, we have the 9 competencies that are out there, and you had professional standards to that, and you read about, understanding motivation that is required to become a pilot, and how to show that you are motivated in the career. The rest comes down to how you deliver the information, right? If you can speak well, if you can problem solve well, if you can consider the resources around you, ask the right questions, they would have to grade you on those things, right? On those competencies, and your goal is to demonstrate them. If you don't demonstrate them well, then it's not a good thing. So the hope is that, I hope I'm answering your question. I don't have specific, because I don't ask that question where they will ask, well, I would ask specific questions from them, but the general feedback I've been getting is it's hard, it's challenging, and again, that's normal. But if you've practiced well, you applied competencies, you get a grade that you deserve. So my advice is practice. Understand the type of questions you would get isn't the same type as what you did with the flight school stage. The type of questions you would get at the stage is going to be different. They're always multifaceted type of questions. They're always sometimes vague questions, and they expect you to be able to deduce or come to logical conclusions based on the information you're given. So it's almost like a real world scenario or questions. So they might ask you, well, this is one from, I believe, was it last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember now, but they might ask questions like, you're about to depart and there's a problem with the plane. Now you're delayed for 2 hours. and you then have these passengers who you need to address. How would you address them? That's it, right? That's a question right there. And now you have to be able to come up with, okay, wait, I have passengers, I have my crew. You have to fit in the rest of the puzzle and come up with a logical explanation, or at least a logical briefing to your passengers, and appease them and still provide good customer service, show empathy, and show that you're willing to answer their questions. So the type of questions you are going to get are generally competency-based questions. All right. And when I say competency-based, I'm talking about you applying the competencies to real world or some simulated environment in which you then are asked to speak to it, or at least defend your actions and make decisions. And of course, I always share the necessary resources that I have, or the acronyms to use that can help. Things like TDODR, things like PACE, all those acronyms are things that you can use so that you have a structured way of going about the information you're delivering. Because what happens is that a lot of people are flustered, or they get very I've forgotten the word now, but you get very you're not organized in the way you're delivering information. And as a pilot, especially in the face of passengers, in order to convey confidence, to convey that you know what you're doing, you need somebody who is organized in that position. And that's why, especially during that speedy interview, they want to see that you are somebody who is confident, somebody who is articulate, somebody who is also structured in the way you deliver your information. So again, I always say that the way you practice is the way you perform. If you practice just like you are in an environment with 8 desks and 8 people who ask you various questions, and you know about the competencies that you're going to be tested on, then the rest is just thinking about those competencies, know some of the key terms of how to demonstrate the competency in a particular scenario, and you can just any type of question you're asked. At the end of the day, they will test your ability to make decisions. They will test your ability to manage workload, right? They will test your ability to lead. They will test your ability to what's the other one? Your SA, situational awareness, right? Your communication, right? And of course, you have things like customer service. You have professionalism, right? All these things are things that, if you've been following some of the videos that I share, if you can watch the old ones, you would get a bit of all of this information. And just do your research, read about them, have an understanding, and then practice. Practice as much as you can. The more you practice, the better you do. All right. All right. This is from Enik. Sophie, hey Steven, how do I remember what to say in interviews and not black out? And how can I restructure answers to fit different questions or scenarios? This is something that also in line with what James and Williams just asked as well. James Williams, actually. I said James and Williams. James Williams just asked as well. In order not to experience that blackout, it's okay to take some time to think. All right. No interviewer will fault you for thinking about what you want to say. It's best and actually better that you take a few seconds to think about what you're going to say, because it shows that you have a way. You're not just saying whatever comes first to mouth. You're actually thinking and you are structuring what you want to say. All right. So my advice is, if you're asked a question and you know that this question is not something that you've actively practiced recently, or at least you have a solid response to, take a deep breath. All right. Now, you don't have to now breathe. Take a deep breath, smile, and then attempt that question. But one thing is, one of the simple strategies that people also use is, starting out with the keywords. So I don't want to lead you by saying certain things here, but if you ask a question about situational awareness, for example, something that tests your situational awareness, okay, the understanding of situational awareness would help you to at least have something to say. So maybe it's the definition of situational awareness, and also maybe it's an experience that you've had where you demonstrated, having that SA. Then, of course, addressing the question itself. Okay, but what I'm trying to get you to think about is it's okay to take a pause when necessary. It's better than saying something and saying the wrong thing, or saying something you lead yourself in the wrong direction, and then you now have to come back to fix it. Just like the example of talking to passengers, it's best that you don't say something, or at least take the time to say something, than for you to rush to it and say something that is incorrect or that would actually cause more panic amongst passengers. Okay. And how can I structure or restructure answers to fit different questions? So this is where, and this is for Sophia, right? One thing I'll say is that because you would have 8 different people assessing you on this day, right? Understand that they don't care about the story itself. They care about you answering the question, if that makes sense. So when you have a one-on-one interview with somebody, it's hard for you to repeat the same story. It's hard because at some point it's like, okay, this guy is just repeating the same story for different competency. You can't do that. You cannot. But when you have 8 different people, it's okay to repeat the same story, but highlight what needs to be highlighted, if that makes sense. Like a particular story. And by the way, there's situations and experiences you've had in the past where this scenario or this situation you had might be a good fit for a problem solving decision, where you have to make decisions on maybe you demonstrated how to make decisions on something, right? And you did it excellently well. So that's one. That story goes well with that. But that same story also shows a side of you that you are a good team player. Okay. Now, if you were to be asked a question about problem solving and you tell that story to one person, it's okay to use the same story for another person, but then you focus more on the teamwork aspect of that story. That is good. I hope this makes sense. I think it's more conversational than just me talking about it. But the point here is you want to make sure you answer the question, but if you're using the same story, focus more on what the aspect of the story that answers the question. It might be the same story in terms of the structure of the story and the experience itself, but the area that you focus on must be the area that answers the competency that is being tested. Otherwise, you won't get full marks, or you don't actually get the grade that is applicable. Okay, so it's okay to use the same story. That's where I'm going. All right, but make sure, and this is really important, make sure that the competency that is being tested is addressed, and that is where you want to spend most of your time. Now, the caveat to that is there are times in which some competencies or some questions are vague and you are not sure of what are they really testing for, like what competencies is this testing for. This is where I try to say, it's okay to cast a broad net of competencies that are applicable to that scenario. If you ask a question like the example that I gave where if the flight is delayed and now you have to address passengers, something that's in that line, right? That question, of course, with passengers being involved, is testing your company, is testing your customer service, is testing your communication, is testing your leadership and decision making, and of course, how you deliver and structure this information that you say. So that is somewhat clear. But if you ask a question, sometimes it can be vague that you don't know what area or what competency has been tested. That is where you want to be as this is where you have to use your judgment, okay? But make sure that you then spread. If you're not sure, try to mention as many competencies and apply them to that scenario. All right, mention them and state how you would apply them, because that is one of the key things. All right, how you would apply and why you are choosing to do something or not do something. All right, in that particular scenario, those things are key, and that is something that you need to, again, practice this. It is there are tons of resources out there. Practice, practice, practice. And honestly, that blackout that you're talking about will not happen if you practice really well. The only reason why you experience blackout is pressure, or that tense pressure that you're experiencing, and you're unable to manage your thought process. But if you can just put some effort into practicing, you should be fine. Okay. Let me see. Am I missing something here? How do I remember what's okay? You can't. Right. Das, thanks for answering that question. Let me see. This thing keeps jumping and I cannot tell where I am right now. Wait. I think I've missed some questions. I hold the status of an overseas Indian citizen. So TJ stuff, just to be clear, right? I do not know what countries you said you're Indian citizen. You hold the status of an overseas Indian citizen. I don't understand that. If you're a citizen of India and I don't understand the question you're trying to ask. All right. I don't know if they hire Indians, okay? Just so you know, I heard of some new programs like Scoot Airlines, Fly Dubai, or Air Arabia. Not sure if they're hiring Indians. I'm not sure either, honestly. I hold an Indian ID and passport. Okay, so yeah, I cannot list countries and places you can work. But one thing I know, right? You can definitely work for for example, airlines like Fly Dubai, and maybe Air Arabia, the Middle Eastern countries anyway, airlines anyway. It's likely that you can work for them because they have a way of organizing your work permit and all the stuff out there, because a lot of people from different countries work in these countries as well, like in Fly Dubai, the Middle East and other places. So as Indian, I'm sure you can get a job there, okay? But cadet programs that you qualify for, I do not know. All right, I think I've talked about this in the past. These cadet programs are catered towards the citizens of the countries that the airline operates out of. So if you're not for example, the Singapore program that you mentioned, the majority of the time they only hire people from Singapore, right? And it's only fair because that's how they give back to the community in their own region, by giving opportunities to people that are citizens of the country. Now, I'm not saying that they do not take foreigners. Maybe they do, but most of the people that they take are citizens of the country the airline is in. Okay, say I complete my cadet program with Indigo or any other airline and start my job as an airfo. Can I do an online degree program with unis like ERE? Absolutely. Just pay and you do a program online. Yeah. And you don't have to come physically to the States. So yeah, Stephen, Indian cadets are competitive, but there are many academies who have direct consultation with Indigo, especially Air India, since they have just started. Okay, yeah, that's what I've always heard, that they're very competitive. So I mean, again, if you have the resources, one thing I always say is that if you have the resources to get as much consultation done, get prepared, do the necessary lessons, and because there are so many I don't want to call them preparatory, but what do you call them now, centers that offer programs that prepares you for some of these things as well. I think in India I've seen some of them online. If you have the resources to do that, of course, go ahead and do it, because at the end of the day you have a secured job at the end once you're done. So that gives you that that added security, which you wouldn't have if you were to go to like a flight school and then start looking for a job afterwards. I mean, you've spent all this money, you probably want to have an assurance that that there's a job at the end of it, at the end of the day. Do you recommend any flight schools that provide F1 visa? Said Pelican. Have you heard about Phoenix East Aviation? Das. I don't know if have you heard about Phoenix East Aviation? Phoenix East Aviation is one that I know they offer F1. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Not this one. I'm going to switch to that. This is I'm trying to find, let's see, intentional programs, the professional programs. Okay, here. Yeah, so they offer professional program 1, professional program 3. But it does show the price. Okay, the price is here. Total price is 83,000. I don't know if you heard about them. This one is in Daytona Beach. All right. Let me just share the link with you. I don't know if you probably should have seen it, because I know they're always online. You always see their stuff everywhere. Let me see. Right, correct. Okay, I see you've seen them, and okay, yeah. They offer F1 program. I don't. Another school. I don't know if you've considered ERAU, Embredo, for example. I know it's quite expensive, but it's also one of the great schools out there as well. Okay. Any chance of starting by 2027? One thing I would say is that most of the schools. Oh, by the way, I have something to show you here. If you're still on, let me see if I can pull this up. Future. I believe it's okay, let me share this with you. This might help. Okay, if you're looking for F1 M1 schools, with that link. Okay, let me share my screen here. So you don't have to put in the school name, you don't have to put in the city, you don't even have to put in the territory, but I'll say to limit it down, otherwise you have a long list of schools to go through. Change it to flight school and then choose F1. Okay, this is in the state of Florida right now. Okay, so let me apply that. It brings up a list of 42 schools that offer F1. Okay, with that you can actually scroll through and you see schools like L3 Aris. I know of this school, for example. Pelican, I think you already mentioned it. Phoenix East Aviation. I don't know if you've used this link. Okay, if you use this link, all the schools you'd get, and you can see it says visa. It has F1. Now this one it has multiple campuses. It has F1 and M1, so they offer those type of. So this can be something that you should use. Okay, now of course, if you have a preferred state, you can change it to, I don't know, California, for example, and then apply, and then you get a list of schools as well that offer F1. Okay, but And then with that, you can then reach out to, you can go to Google, search for the school, and read more about it. Okay, but that's something that I know that can help you to kind of narrow down to schools that offer F1. It can get really complicated because now you have a long list of schools to go through. But that's something you can use. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Good thing that I actually thought about it, because it was last minute. I was like, wait, that's actually have something you could use. So yeah, that would definitely help you to narrow it down. Okay, you can just pick F1 and apply, and all the list of schools you get will be F1 schools. Okay. All right, let's see. Awesome. Oh wow. Logan, thanks for doing that. Yeah, so Thursday, looking forward to seeing you at the session then. Thursday. Okay, yeah, that works. Fellow Lagos hometown. Wow, that is cool. But where did you leave now, Logan? Z06, if you're still on anyway. All right, let's see. Hi, Captain. How are you? Thank you so much for your videos. They're very helpful. You're welcome, Hamar. I wish you success. Would you recommend to take an apprenticeship and be a pilot in the future once you've got the money, or go to university, get a degree, and get a job then after? Yeah, APS. This is something I've also answered in the past, and I would say the same thing. Getting a degree and going to university, and getting your flight training done is something that is. It's a bit personal. Okay, what do you want to do, right? That's the question I always ask. Okay, what's the ultimate thing you want to do? If you want to fly, if you want to become a pilot, I would always encourage you to focus on that first. And the reason why I say that is because becoming a pilot has its advantages when you get it done as a young person. Okay, when I say, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong doing it when you're older. But I'm just saying that if you want to fly professionally in an airline, it's best, or it's better, to get it done as soon as possible. Because no matter the airline you go to, most of them, especially in the US, Europe, most places, Asia, most of them, they operate based on seniority system. And which means that the sooner you get hired with those airlines, the sooner you join them, the better it will be for you in terms of quality of life, pay, schedule, all of those things. So personally, okay, this is something that you have to decide. What do you want for yourself? Personally, I would choose to get my training done if I have the means to, okay? Get it done as soon as possible, and then get my degree afterwards, or when I start working, when I start flying, get an online degree. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares if you got your degree online or you sat in a class for 4 years. Nobody really cares, or 5 years, right? Nobody cares about that. As long as you get a degree, you got a degree. That's it. Now, why is it important to have a degree, or why is it a good thing? Not that it's a requirement. I'm not saying it's required. Okay, but why is it a good thing to have a degree? Having a degree gives you options in life, not necessarily in aviation. Okay, it gives you an option in life in the sense, if for any reason the airline you're working with goes bankrupt, right, and you have to find something to do in the meantime, having a degree can provide some means of earning for you. But if you do not have a degree and all you do is fly, right? The problem with that is, if something were to go wrong with your flying career, God forbid, health problem, God forbid, the airline goes bankrupt, something goes wrong, then you have no other option, unless you've created something on the side, maybe a business, right? But then you have no other option but to, I don't know, start all over again, or start scrambling, looking for something. But if you have a degree, at least you have something. You have, because most regular jobs requires that you have a degree, unless it's IT or some other type of jobs like that. Most jobs require that you have a degree. So anyway, to cut long story short, getting a degree is not required. It's only a added thing to your CV, to who you are, to your reputation, and all that. It's good to have it. If I had the option, if you are in a position to fund training right away, then start training. Now, if you're not in a position to fund training, then go get your degree, because guess what? You get your degree, you can start earning some money, then you can start saving some money, and maybe get a loan, and then get your training done as well, right? But if you have the money, get the flight training done as soon as possible. Once you get that done, then we can work on getting a degree, because I would still recommend that you get a degree. I would still tell you that, because it's just a good thing to have. It's always a good backup. Okay, and that's something I would always encourage you to do. Sorry, I think I need to drink some water. All right. Do I have any tips for group interviews? And is it okay if I want to go in with a cheat sheet? No, you can't go into a group interview or a group. No, you cannot. You cannot go into an interview with a cheat sheet. And I understand what you mean by cheat sheet. It's more like something to help you juggle your memory on what you want to say and all that. You cannot, unfortunately. All right. And you don't want to do that. I always say that if you feel like you are not sure, I don't know what interview you're preparing for, okay, but you need to practice and learn to manage your feelings, okay. So the fear you're experiencing sometimes can be due to maybe the lack of the confidence, okay. And confidence is sometimes have you heard what they say, fake it till you make it sometimes, right? Sometimes you have to kind of just believe and fake it till you make it, if that makes sense. And fake it till you make it in the sense that, you have to carry yourself knowing that you believe in what you know. You believe in the information you have. You believe in your capabilities. You believe in the competencies, right? And if you've done your research, you've done your reading about those competencies, then with the knowledge of the competencies, you can apply them to your experience, right? And of course, apply them to the situation that you're asked or the question, your scenario you're given. So I would say that you try not to put yourself in a position where you're then disqualified, because say, for example, you go into the cheat sheet of something that can help you juggle your memory, and I'm talking about to the actual interview. There's nothing wrong. Some people may have a notepad, just so you know, some people may have a notepad to the interview place, right? But you don't open it. So if you need something to write or to keep your mind engaged while maybe, I don't know, on your way to the interview or on the way to the place, that might be fine, right? But what I mean is you can't go in there to be looking at a note, if that makes sense, to remind you of what you want to talk about. That's not acceptable. What jobs can one do with a PPL to raise funds towards CPL? Marcel, what jobs can one do? That's a tough question. I'll be honest. All right. The reason is because there are so many jobs out there. Sometimes it may not be one job. Like I've met people who did things part-time, worked one job here, another job there, and the combination of the two jobs, they were able to save some money towards their CPL. So it's hard to be able to answer that question and tell you that this is one job you should do, because it depends on your qualifications, right? It depends on your experience. It depends on your interest. So I don't know how to answer that particular question, I'll be honest. Let's see. Hi, Stephen from Pakistan. I don't. Let's see. I haven't got. Ibtisam, I think that's the way I pronounce that. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. Sorry if I'm messing it up. But one thing I would say is, starting your training as an AME is a step in the right direction. Do what you can, and start somewhere. At the end of the day, you may find yourself in a better position where you can actually afford training, but at least you're doing something, and you're doing it in aviation as well. And that's something that I believe that would help you stay close to the place you want to be. So your goal is to maybe become a pilot, but at least you are in that environment, working with people that are in the aviation industry, and maybe in some way, in some path down the line, along the way, you may find yourself an opportunity that gets you to the flight deck. All right, but you're doing the right thing, okay? Because unfortunately, I know what you mean. A lot of countries do not have career programs that are sponsored or fully sponsored. And by the way, like I've shared my story in the past as well. I've shared my own journey where, I was in an environment with a lot of opportunities like the career programs that I cover on this channel. And that's why I feel like, if I have the knowledge on how to help people succeed, then I should share it. And that's why I have the channel, because I didn't have that. I didn't have that opportunity back then. Anyway, A. Steven, seen it as an aspiring pilot living in the UK, currently completing my aerospace engineering. I struggle with the feeling of being left behind in my journey to be a pilot. Could you please offer some advice on how to combat this feeling and how to best do so? Hey, 4J, thanks for joining. It's been a while. I do understand how you feel, because you start to feel like you're getting older, and the opportunities are kind of closing up because of time. And that's why I always encourage anybody who is young, who has the ability to become trained, to do it as soon as possible. But that doesn't mean that you can't get it done. For Jay, to answer your question, one thing I'll say is that understand that everyone's timing for everything is different, right? Some people are able to do it at a young age, some people do it at the older age, but the dream still gets accomplished, right? You still get to achieve the dream. So if it's something that you are passionate about, then I would always encourage you to continue to try for these cadet programs. Especially you live in the UK, right? You live in the UK with a lot more opportunities in terms of cadet programs. You have a ton of them now. I can count a lot of them actually out there. And if you need to work on, I don't know what stages you've gotten to, and I wish we could have a conversation, just out of here where we can talk. But the thing about it is that when you find yourself in a situation where, like your situation where you're in a place with all these programs, and I'm sure you've probably applied to them, do you know why you're not getting through, right? Or at least not getting to the final stage? What's been the feedback? All right, what's been the issues you've experienced? And then you work on the issue. All right, you have to, that is the only, because the problem with your situation is not that there's no program around you, and it's not because there's no you don't have the qualification, or you don't meet the requirements. You meet the requirements, the programs are there. The issue is just that getting selected. So if getting selected is a problem, okay, wait, you've tried these few programs, okay, why didn't you get selected? Is it because of the interviews? Was it because of the assessment or the test you did? Was whatever that problem is, then let's address the problem. You have to do that. Now, there are times in which that your background could also be some of the I don't know your background, right? So I'm not saying this is your situation, but I'm just saying that sometimes when these airlines want to sponsor people, they want to make sure that they sponsor people who have the right, I guess, experiences. And if you don't fit into that, that can be a problem, right? So how can we change or work on those experiences to fit the type of person, or at least make you better, if that makes sense? Is it joining aviation organizations, being more active in them, getting to do the things that people who want to get to achieve that dream are doing, right? So if it's attending those workshops, learning, improving, becoming better, right? Those are the things that you need. I don't know what, again, I don't know your background. I don't know your story. I don't know your those experiences. I don't have your CV. So I can't tell you that this is what is going on, right? But until we get to that stage, then we can narrow it down to say, okay, this is what we need to work on. This is what, because one thing I'll say is that I have a list of number of people who have reached out to me and they had no clue about how to go about a career program, right? But then they said they watched my videos, and in fact, I haven't responded to a few messages so far. But somebody sent me, and Matt, not there's so many Matt, so I'm sure I can say Matt. But I'm going to read this, right? I fly to FTA tomorrow and wanted again to express such gratitude to your help in making this dream a reality. I'm truly grateful for everything you do and think you're such a fabulous person. I haven't read the message. It's right there, right? I haven't even read it. I'm just reading it now. Where am I? And think you're such a fabulous person for how you've helped people like me get into such an amazing position. Thank you again. If I can ever help, just let me know. All right. I haven't responded to him. This was sent on Tuesday. Okay. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I just need to respond so I don't forget. The reason why I'm sharing this is because this particular person, right? When we did the first Speedbird program, it got to the final stage. No, I think it did the first Speedbird. No, there was another program, TUI. All right, TUI. It did the TUI program, didn't get through. It did Aer Lingus program, didn't get through. Then finally did Speedbird. But why am I sharing this? By doing those programs, we were able to identify where the problem lied, right? So in terms of, okay, was it the interview technique he was following or was using? And then we iterated or we corrected things, right? And then we're able to was able to get into the Speedbird last year, not this year, the last 2 years. All right. So he got in and now he's starting training. Why am I sharing that? The reason why I'm sharing that is just that if you are in an environment with opportunities and you have the requirements, then the rest is figuring out, okay, why haven't you been selected? Okay, is it how you're going for those interviews? Is it the assessment you're taking? Is it how you're preparing? Is it how you're practicing? Is it how you answer questions? All these things require that you sit. And this is where I always encourage people that, hey, nobody was born with this. We all learned it. I learned it, right? He learned it, became better, applied it, and got selected. And a list of people, I have a few people actually, that got selected with the TUI program. They are in the Speedbird program. They are at the final stage. They are waiting for their interviews and all this stuff. And the reason why I'm just sharing this is because those people, they applied last year. They didn't get through, but now they have something that they have options, if that makes sense. They have options with these programs and they're still in the race and they're still doing it. All that to say that if you're in an environment with these opportunities and you have access to them, why are we not getting selected? We need to figure that answer out. If you don't know that answer, if you don't know what that problem is, then there's no way I can really do anything, right? And the thing is that it's easy to look at it and say, oh, I did everything, I've seen comments like, oh, the exam is too hard, or the test was too hard. And in as much as it is hard, people are still getting through. So maybe you need more practice. Maybe you need to read more. Maybe it's more on the interview side where you need to, work on your interviewing skills. I don't know, right? And I wish I could answer that question. So to not feel, I think I'm kind of going too long on this, but how to not feel bad, all right? Or to feel sorry, or let me see. Could you please offer some advice on how to combat this feeling and how best to do so? I think what I'll say is identify where you're lacking and work on it. Because when you work on the area you're lacking, at least you see progress, right? If you know where you're coming short and the area you're struggling, then if you work on that, you're likely to see progress. if that makes sense. And of course, just stay engage with the community, engage with, and when I say community, I'm talking about if you join an aviation organization or aviation organization around you there, you're likely to at least stay engaged with the community, and that can show that you're motivated, one, but also it keeps you going, even though you might experience setbacks. And it's okay to experience setbacks. Like I said, people would go through these programs 1, 2, 3 times before they get selected, and that's okay, because hey, if you get selected and you get to achieve the dream, that is the goal right there, right? All right, Phoenix, I've contacted but nothing from them. They have a degree program with ASU. Okay, let's see. Hello, Retro. Thanks for joining. ATP flight school is only for United States. That's correct. TGI stuff. Most of the time, you have to be a United States citizen to apply to ATP. I don't think they take international students. I don't think so. This thing just jumped on me again. Let's see. I dream to work for Virgin Atlantic one day, but I'll try jump at the Speedbird when I'm ready in a few years. My Majesty is the only thing that can stop me from becoming a pilot. I actually have something that I have to do shortly. Let's see. Oh, you live in Georgia. Nice, Logan. I'll see you soon on Thursday. Joshua, from there, I'll get a lawyer to help me apply a green card. I'm a UK citizen, by the way. What do you think? That's you got a plan. You got something you're working on. I'm doing my commercial training in Michigan. After I'm done with that, I'll do CFI and double I. I'm planning on instructing and going in my hours. After that, I'll do a master's in AREU worldwide. From there, I'll get a lawyer to help me apply for a green card. I'm a UK citizen, by the way. So I don't know what path you're taking for the green card, but just know that there are some requirements that you need to meet in order to apply for the green card. And on what basis are you applying? Is it based on a job? Is it based on marriage? Is it based on there's so many of them anyway. So you kind of have to make sure that you have that in line, or at least set out, so that you are in a position to apply. Okay. Sorry, I need to reach out to this guy real quick. I honestly want to do more of these lives on a regular basis. And actually, one of the things I wanted to do at the beginning of this live was to, of course, answer your questions like I'm doing right now. But I also wanted to cover some recent developments in aviation, some of the news out there. As you guys know, on this channel, I don't talk about the accidents. And unfortunately, I know one with the Air India was so recent. But I tried to not talk about those on the channel, because I feel like that's not the focus of this channel. I may end up having another channel to talk about search, right? But the focus of this channel is strictly to talk about getting into the aviation world, becoming a pilot, interviewing, assessments. So that is the core focus of this channel. And of course, your advice and suggestions are welcomed. Okay, so you can always share your own suggestions, maybe to have such a channel for that. But to be honest, it's not just something that it's just not something I'm really interested in anyway. I'm more interested in this aspect of it because I have a personal experience, having to go through becoming a pilot, the struggles. So it's a sentimental feeling, I guess, attachment, to it, because I know the struggle I went through, and I feel like if what I've known with my experience, I should be able to share this with the other people as well. However, there's so much I can share on becoming a pilot, right? in terms of programs, in terms of interviewing skill, interviewing for these programs and assessments. There's so much you can share before you start to run out of things. So sometimes it's always good to just talk about current events as well. Okay. Excuse me. But I'm still trying to get ideas. So if you have ideas, please leave it in the comment section or in the chat. I would love to read them. But I definitely want to do more lives, like those live sessions like this, where we just talk about different things, answer your questions, share my own ideas on things that you may be going through. Let's see. I worked for SkyWest Airline as a flight attendant, and I was given the opportunity to go and get my ratings and get into the cadet program and still keep my employee ID. So I'll have a little. Oh, nice. That's really good, Logan. Honestly, like. Oh wow. So you still get your seniority, but I'm thinking though, do you get a seniority even when you become a pilot? Does it? I know you might keep your employee number and all those things, but when you go on the pilot list, you probably don't, go above others. You probably go underneath and then kind of make your way up. I want to believe that's the way it would work. At least that's how I've seen it work for other people who have kind of been in your position. They were flight attendants and then they kept them on the. I don't know. I'm curious to know actually. I see online degree and physically going to uni is the same thing, right? Like they don't have any different. Yeah, they're the same. They're the same stuff. There's no difference at all. All right. There's no difference at all. The degree is gonna be the same. So don't sweat it at all. And again, like I said, at the end of the day, your goal really is to become a pilot, right? So if we prioritize that, let the degree just be an additional thing that makes you a better person, right? Other than and something to keep in mind when you do your degree as well. I'm not going to advise you to. Here's what I would do, right? I would want to do a degree that is slightly outside of aviation. It doesn't have to be in aviation. Okay, I would prefer to do a degree that is, for example, I did my degree in computer science, and that's because I didn't know I was gonna go train right after completing my degree, but then two, I feel like it gives me a more diversified means of making money in life, if that makes sense. Most of the things that I do now that are exactly like editing videos, all those things came from the fact that I did something related to computer, if that makes sense. I mean, I know you don't have to do computer to do all these things, but what I'm trying to do computer science to do all these things. But what I mean is that I have this affinity for technology, and that's why I did computer science. And even though I didn't enjoy programming that much, I have an understanding of it, if that makes sense. So even though I don't enjoy web design and other stuff, I have an understanding of it. So it gives me a different type of knowledge that is outside of aviation, if that makes sense. So you kind of have a broader knowledge of how things work, let me put it that way, compared to when you just do aviation science. And then when you do aviation science, you do some courses here and there, but majority of what you do, the major itself, is in aviation. So it's like you kind of are all into aviation, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just something that I personally would prefer, something that gives me more options outside of aviation. That's just me. Hi Stephen, I'm about to do the Jet 2 motivation interview, not being able to find much about questions they'll ask, how long you have to answer each questions. So from what I've gathered about the Jet 2 motivation, actually the interview, I'm guessing you're referring to the online interview, right? Because I believe there's an online portion where you do some online interviews. I think it's recorded. You just record your answers. Now, I honestly didn't do much research on this particular Jet 2 program, but one thing I've heard is it's an online you record your answers and send it back to them. So, again, I can't even say much about it because I don't know much about it as well. But one thing I'll say is, at the end of the day, you know, these competencies are being tested. Try to deliver your information to the best of your abilities. And William, I believe that you've seen some of those videos that I've shared. Just put them to use. I think and read about Jet2, right? Know about the airline so that you can defend your reason for wanting to work with them and work over there. Let me see. I actually have to go somewhere now. Why did they send this? Yeah, I have to go somewhere now, unfortunately. Like I said, I would love to do this more, but I have to go somewhere now. I only have a few minutes. You're welcome, Foje. I was just reading your message here. Then I think you're doing the right things. Honestly, like based on the few things you've shared here, you're doing the right things. Just remember that sometimes self-doubt is what kills a lot of dreams as well. Just the fact that you are doubting, you feel like you're not up to standard, right? And it's a feeling that a lot of people get. I don't want you to feel like you are different, or you're not up to standard. I don't want you to feel that way. The truth is that a lot of people feel that way, like, hey, can I really do this? Am I up to standard? But one thing I'll say is that everybody goes through that phase, and it's a feeling that you get, but you have to remind yourself of the things you have done and achieved as well. And of course, put in the work that is necessary. And you are already doing those things. You're in university, you join Air Squadron, all the stuff. They're all good stuff. So just keep doing what you're doing, and don't let that feeling get you down. Don't let that feeling dissuade you from actually pursuing the goal. You're from Lagos. I live right now. Going back to India next year. I've been living here for a decade. I use TGF stuff. TGI stuff. You live in Lagos. That's cool. What part of Lagos are you? I don't live. I lived in Ibadan when I was in Nigeria, but I'm very familiar with Lagos. Yeah. Okay, I see. The seniority will come with the cadet program at 250 hours for priority to interview. Okay, cool. Almost there. Again, I'm looking forward to our chat on Thursday. Really looking forward to it. But let's see. I'm praying for a cadet program for British Helicopters Nigeria. They haven't called for an interview yet, but I just want to prep in advance. Oh, I see. Yeah. So I believe Bristol Helicopters actually sponsors. That's actually right. But you hardly hear about this, though. I've heard about it. This was a while ago, but I've never heard about it again in recent times. And I thought they stopped it. But I remember a friend of mine actually went through that program. This was a while ago, because they'll send you to train and pay for it and all that stuff. Yeah, I remember that now. Wow. Well, just of course reach out to me on Instagram. We can talk more about what some recommendations and stuff. But keep you're doing the right stuff. Okay, so just read about the company, and of course the test. I think the test can be difficult from what I've heard. Was a decade ago. Yep, that sounds right. Wow. So I guess they're starting it again now. Well, I wish you success, man. I don't know if you're a lady or guy, but I wish you success. Sophie, I think is a lady. All right. I wish you success. And of course, if you have any questions, you can reach out. All right, I have to go now. I would catch up again. I might be able to come on live again because I'm off. Actually, I'm off through this week. But of course, I might have some busy stuff. I say busy. I have some personal stuff that I may have to do. But it's been nice catching up with you guys and girls and ladies and women, everybody. All right, it's been really nice. I enjoyed just chatting and providing as much information as I can. I wish you success and in whatever you're doing, and of course in your journey of becoming a pilot. I will see you on the next live or next session or in the video. Don't forget to drop a like on this one. Okay, take care.